Welcome to Hatman Strikes Back Daily Boxing News. Let's turn this mic up slightly. So we are here for live commentary. Anthony Cacace versus Leigh Wood. And to just put my prediction out there real quick before the opening bell, I'm picking, like most people, Cacace to win. I'm basing it on the size, style to some extent, but also activity. Leigh Wood hasn't fought in what, 18 months or something? It's been a very long time. So they're face to face now. One thing I will say though, based upon seeing them face to face there before the opening bell, is that according to BoxRec, Leigh Wood is 5'7" and Cacace is 5'10". I didn't see a 3-inch height difference there. Anyway, here we go, round one. Leigh Wood with a double jab, Cacace blocks. Another nice jab from Leigh Wood. He's on the front foot right away. Another double jab there from Leigh Wood. So, yeah, he intends to impose himself here. Body shots from Leigh Wood. Cacace hasn't thrown anything meaningful yet. It's been all Leigh Wood so far in the first 30 seconds of round one. That's a nice right hand there, though, from Cacace. Again, Leigh Wood very much on the front foot. The guy coming up and wait. Another nice right hand, though, on the left from Cacace. Nice counter punching from Cacace so far. Leigh Wood going with the jab. Cacace happy to lay back at the moment and counter punch. Let's turn this music down a little bit. I think it's a bit loud. More double jabs from Leigh Wood. Targeting the body. Ooh, both guys nearly landed simultaneous there, but just missed. Another double jab from Leigh Wood. Cacace turning southpaw here, trying to get a left hand off. Interesting tactics from both of them. Cacace just misses a right hand there. Takes center ring for the first time in this round, Cacace. Both kind of feinting at each other, trying to trigger the other to throw. Leigh Wood, again, reverts to that jab. Blocks a right hand from Anthony Cacace. Interesting stuff. Right hand to the body from Leigh Wood. And he'll need to keep throwing those if Cacace's going to move around and try and walk him on the counters. You know, it's a tight round. I feel like Leigh Wood has been more active, but Cacace's landed the more eye-catching headshots. Leigh Wood has landed a couple of body shots. 45 seconds left in round one. Cacace jumps in with a couple there that miss. Swinging right hand from Cacace misses. Leigh Wood feinting and then going to the body. That's a nice jab to the body from Wood. The way he's feinting and then going to the body. I like that. Tries a jab to the head, but Cacace was wise to it and they tie up. 19 seconds left in the first round. Nice combination there. Culminating in a left hook to the body by Anthony Cacace. Holds center ring again. Misses a wild left hook. Right hand blocked by Leigh Wood. Nice left hand gets through there from Anthony Cacace. Nice shots. Knocked Wood's head back. Is Wood damaged over the right eye? We'll have to look at the corner footage, but it looked from a distance as though Wood had picked up some damage over the right eye. I would give that round to Anthony Cacace. How you guys feeling in the live chat? You reckon that's a Cacace round? I gave it to him. The Nottingham crowd, of course, will not like that. Shout out to Ocean Blue. Shout out to Darry. Austin Spears, Cash, King Riz, Naz, Anthony YouTube, of course. We got Artem. Big up, big up. In case anyone's just joining, my prediction before the opening bell was a Cacace win. Here we go, round 2. Bell's just gone. So Cacace landed the clean headshots in round 1. Leigh Wood was really sticking to his jab and trying to keep his defenses tight, targeting mostly the body as far as power shots. Didn't really land many, if any, power shots to the head. Cacace looked to be the cuter boxer of the two in round 1 with the counter punching. Looks to have the longer arms as well. I don't know what the measurements are as far as reach, but in the ring there, Cacace looks like the longer armed fighter. That's a nice jab there though from Leigh Wood. Both guys trying to hold center ring now. Cacace was happy to give it up in the first round, but here he's trying to hold it. Again, Wood very active with the jab. Cacace nowhere near as active with his own jab. Instead, he's looking for power shots, mainly as counters rather than leads. But that first round was promising. Hopefully we get a good fight here. Cacace jabbing to the body. Misses a right hand over the top. I'll be interested to find out what Wood and Ben Davison's game plan exactly is in this fight, because he's obviously trying to use the jab, but beyond just using the jab and keeping the defenses tight, they presumably would have seen things, particularly Ben Davison. He's a very analytical person. They presumably would have seen things. Nice right hand there from Cacace. Catches Leigh Wood on the eye. Left hook from Cacace. Right hand. Leigh Wood, we know, is very tough. He's been down several times in his career. He's been hurt. We saw him that incredible night against Michael Conlan climb up off the deck in the first round, where he was really getting a pasting in that fight to stop Conlan in spectacular fashion. That was a great contest several years ago. So Leigh Wood is tough. If Cacace is going to beat him, he's really going to have to properly beat the fight out of him. But yeah, from a distance, it looked as though Leigh Wood had some damage on his eye. But up close here, I don't know, maybe there's some reddening there, but I cannot see a cut or anything like that. There's the end of round 2. Not as many shots landed in round 2 as there was in round 1. I'd still give that one to Cacace. But it was a closer round, for sure. Shout out to Philip. Okay, Allen's giving it to Wood. I wouldn't argue too much. It was a close round. Shout out to Ocean Blue if I didn't shout him out already. We got Richard Draper. Allen says, I don't like the look of Wood. He's going to get TKFO'd. We shall see. Need to change the visuals here. What's going on? Here we go. Seeing the slow-mo. Yeah, it was a nice right hand by Cacace. Landed on Leigh Wood's left eye. And another right hand there landed on Leigh Wood's forehead. So this is why I gave Cacace the round. He still was landing the power shots. Wood just hasn't been able to get any power shots through to Cacace's head so far. We're in round 3 now. 10 seconds in. Leigh Wood targeting the body with jabs. Trying to hold his ground, but his punching, for me, has not been that effective so far. Or at least not as effective as Cacace's punching. Leigh Wood, again, trying to feint. But Cacace, as many expected, proving himself to be the better boxer at this stage, especially with Leigh Wood being so inactive over the past 18 months or so. So this fight is in Nottingham, which is Leigh Wood's hometown. Cacace from Northern Ireland. And, nice right hand from Cacace and a left hand from Cacace. He's catching Leigh Wood with regularity with nice counters. He's walking him onto shots. Nothing that's appeared to seriously hurt Leigh Wood so far. I think they've caught his attention, though. Cacace now pursuing Leigh Wood across the ring after landing those nice shots. Yeah, Cacace definitely the sharper boxer here. Uppercut there for Cacace. Nice right hand for Cacace. He's got Leigh Wood on the ropes, applying pressure. Okay, nice jab from Wood. Yeah, Wood looks out of sorts here so far, folks. Cacace's having his way. This is very much a Cacace round here, round 3. That was a right hand from Leigh Wood, but Cacace kind of turned with the punch. I don't think it really landed properly. Maybe just skimmed his face. Wood tries a right hand there. Cacace easily blocks it and moves away. As I said earlier on, Leigh Wood will take some discouraging because he is a very tough man. He's been in situations like this, worse than this even before, and he's come through to win. Can he do it this time? Looks like he'll need to because he's getting outboxed there. That was a nice left hook there, though, from Wood. Towards the end of round 3 here, Cacace putting a few shots together, but Wood manages to block those. Slips that jab from Cacace. There's the end of round 3. By the way, folks, there was a heavyweight fight last night. It's on DAZN for those of you who have got DAZN, so you should be able to watch the replay. A heavyweight fight involving one of the Pero brothers. The Pero brothers are a pair of Cuban heavyweights. One of them is called Daniel. That's the younger one. And the other one is called Leigh Pero. And it was Daniel, the younger one, whose official age is 26. He doesn't look Luis Ortiz old, but you know, with Cubans, you're always a little suspicious about the stated ages. He doesn't look crazy old. But anyways, listed at 20, I think 25, 26. He was a pretty good amateur, as most Cubans are. Beat Richard Torres a couple of times. So anyway, he was fighting in Mexico on a Jake Paul card yesterday. In fact, hold that thought. Here's the start of round 4 for Leigh Wood, Anthony Cacace. I'll come on to finishing that thought in a moment when there's a lull in this action. If there is a lull, let's see. Leigh Wood on the front foot again. Cacace meets him with a combination. Both guys feinting. Cacace cocking the right hand as if he's looking for an uppercut. Feinting again, Leigh Wood got Cacace up against the ropes, but his attack is ineffective. Cacace ties him up and moves him off. Now, Cacace short with a right hand there. Not sure what he was doing there. Turned southpaw. Feinting from the southpaw position at Wood. Wood not going for it. Holding his ground, goes with a right hand to the body. Cacace feinting from the southpaw position. Ooh, Wood tries a big right hand there. Lands on Cacace's chest. So the energy of this round so far has been a little more favorable to Leigh Wood. Oh, some rough stuff on the inside there from Cacace with the forearm. Opens up on Leigh Wood on the inside. Lands a clubbing right hand around the side of Leigh Wood's head. Trying to show him that there's no sanctuary on the inside. If you hold, you're going to get clubbed around with shots. Is basically the message he's trying to send. Opens up on Leigh Wood again. You know, Cacace's quite unorthodox with his stance and with his punch sequence. And this is something I've talked about many times on my channel. Is fighters who throw unusual punch sequences. So rather than throwing left, right, left, right, left, right, some guys will throw right hook, left uppercut, then another right hook, then a right hook to the butt. They'll just throw weird punch sequences. And that, of course, surprises the opponent and allows you to land shots that are not expecting. Now, obviously, you've got to be careful throwing weird punch sequences. You're not throwing uppercuts from too far out and so on and so forth. But for an advanced fighter that knows what they're doing, it can be very effective. I've spoken many times about one of the reasons that Mike Tyson was such a prolific puncher. It wasn't just raw power and speed and defense and all that stuff, but it also because Mike Tyson threw these unusual punch sequences. He was trained to do that. Anyway, here we are. Final 23 seconds of round 4. It's been a slower round, a bit of a better round actually for Leigh Wood. He's managed to settle a little bit here. I'm not sure he's done enough to win the round, but he hasn't been getting caught with so many clean headshots. That was a nice right in there from Wood. Uppercut from Wood. Yeah, definitely a better round for Leigh Wood here. There we go. That's the end of the round. So to finish my thought, Daniel Perro, one half of the Perro brothers, the younger Perro brother, fought last night against the Mexican. And he nearly got knocked out. He was dropped twice by this random Mexican. And he got off the floor, battled back, and did eventually win the fight on points. From what I've seen of Daniel Perro, he doesn't look very impressive. He certainly didn't look impressive last night. The Mexican he was fighting, I can't make any accusations here, folks, but that Mexican guy was the most muscular Mexican I think I've ever seen. I mean, and to emphasize what I'm saying here, so we're starting off the next round here with Wood Cacace. What round is this? Round 6? Round 5, excuse me. But to finish the thought, the Mexican who Daniel Perro fought back in 2018 was 147 pounds. And Mexican as in born in Mexico, yeah. Not, born in the USA like Andy Ruiz. This guy was born in Mexico. But back in 2018, he was 147 pounds. At the time, he would have been 18 or 19. Who the hell goes from 147 pounds at 18 to 220 pounds at the age of 25? What was that, 70, 80 pounds of muscle, of pure muscle? Because this guy was like hench. I've never seen a Mexican built like that before in my life. So, yeah. It was definitely an eyebrow raiser, that Mexican, the build on the guy. Because, certain nationalities are known for certain phenotypes, And Mexicans are not known for big, muscular, bulky bodies. It's very rare. This was the most hench Mexican I've ever seen. And again, going from 147 when he was 18 to 220 pounds when he's 25, nah, bro. That's an eyebrow raiser to say the least. Anyway, back to Daniel Perro was dropped by the guy a couple times and he got off the floor to win the fight. Let's get back to this Cacace Wood fight. Cacace landed a couple of flashy combinations there. 1 minute 15 left in round 5 of this 12 rounder for the IBO super featherweight title held by Cacace, the lightly regarded IBO title. Kingdom of Amaria, is that Annie Maria? Excuse me, says make a video on Lennox fighting Mike Tyson in 1996. Who ducked who? Lennox didn't fight Mike Tyson in 1996. He fought him in, what was it, 2002 or something? Mike Tyson fought Evander Holyfield for the first time in 1996. Shout out to Jake. Shout out to Cash. And as far as who ducked who, Mike Tyson turned down, well, when I say turned down, he paid Lennox Lewis step-aside money. There's the end of the round for Wood Cacace. a pretty uneventful round. Yeah, Mike Tyson paid Lennox Lewis step-aside money to fight, I think it was Holyfield or Selden instead. Might have been Holyfield, which was perceived at the time to be an easier fight. But it's kind of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, because while Mike Tyson paid Lewis step-aside money to not fight him, Lewis didn't have to accept the step-aside money. He could have rejected it and forced the fight through. So again, 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. But it was Mike Tyson's idea not to fight Lewis. Let's just put it that way. That wasn't his first choice. He wanted to fight Holyfield, who was seen as washed up at the time. King Riz says Adam Smith is back on his BS. All right, here we go. Wood, Cacace. Wood again on the front foot. This is the start of round 6. As far as Adam Smith, you know, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. When Eddie Hearn left the zone, I was optimistically hoping for a better commentary team than the one he'd left at Sky, but somehow he assembled a worse commentary team. Headed up by Mike Costello, who is now apparently quote-unquote retired, and he's been replaced by Adam Smith. Anyway, Cacace on the front foot here now, landing some nice shots on Leigh Wood. Nice jab there from Cacace, spearing through the guard of Leigh Wood. So Cacace, according to the punch stats, has landed slightly more shots than Leigh Wood so far. But Leigh Wood has landed a lot more jabs. Yeah, he certainly landed a lot more jabs, particularly to the body. I think if we saw the head versus body connects, I think you would find that Leigh Wood has landed a lot more to the body, but Cacace's landed significantly more to the head. And that was a nice left there from Cacace, knocking Leigh Wood's head back. Salute to Titan. Encircled in the chat. He says the old HBO team was the best. I agree. Larry Merchant, Jim Lampley, even Kellerman. Even though Kellerman's a bit of a donut as a character, professionally, I thought Kellerman was really good as a commentator. And they would bring in people like Manny Stewart. Oh, nice shots from Cacace again. I think Leigh Wood was a little stunned by those shots. Nice combinations from Cacace. Yeah, Wood just can't cope with the combination. Oh, nice uppercut from Cacace. I think Leigh Wood is hurt here. Definitely got his attention. Nice shots from Cacace there. 34 seconds left in round 6. Wood tries to come back with his own right hand. But the quality headshots are coming from Cacace. Nice jab there again from Cacace. He's using that reach very, very well with the left hand. That's a big Cacace round. Big, big round for Anthony Cacace there. Yeah, Adam Smith is very cringe. But to finish my thought that I started earlier, he's much better than Mike Costello. Do you know what I mean? He's much better than Mike Costello. Mike Costello, awful. But yeah, Smith is very cringe. Barker is... I've spoken too much about Barker in the past. Nothing against the guy in terms of his, you know, anything he's done. He hasn't done any actions or anything that would make me dislike him as a human being. But again, professionally, as a commentator, I find him awful. So here we go. Cacace, Wood, round number 7. Wood, once again, beginning the round with this ineffective aggression. He'll throw a bunch of jabs, but his power shots just do not connect. To the head, at least. Cacace having his way. Sharper, more accurate. He's definitely the ring general here. Anthony Cacace. He's not necessarily pressing the action as in, on the front foot. But when he's going backwards, he's walking Leigh Wood onto shots. Do you know what I mean? He's just a step ahead of Leigh Wood the whole fight. Cacace going southpaw again. Somebody says that Barker is part of that Essex clique. Yeah, he's part of that clique. I'm not sure that Barker is actually from Essex, but I know what you mean. Where is Barker from? Is he from West London? I'm not sure where he's from. But I don't think he's from Essex. I stand to be corrected, though. But yeah, he's part of that clique there. And from what I've heard, he actually married somebody that works for Matchroom. Very pally with Eddie Hearn, And that's one of the weaknesses of Hearn when it comes to hiring broadcast staff, broadcast people, is you should never hire people based on whether they're your mates. Do you know what I mean? No, you should hire based on merit, based on how good they are at the job, not just because they're your friend. In US broadcasting, they're a lot more ruthless in terms of hiring based on actually being good at the job. Oh, nice jabs again from Cacace. The way he's spearing Leigh Wood's guard is really quite impressive with both hands, but lately it's been that long left hand. He's knocking Wood's head back every time he lands the shot. JDM says, Eddie's ex-wife is Tony Sim's sister, I think, as well. So you're saying that... that sounded Nigerian then. So you're saying that Eddie's got divorced? Some people saying Eddie don't wear his wedding ring anymore. So how come the press haven't got a hold of that? Thought they would have got hold of it. There you go, end of round 7. It's all Cacace for me. In Circle says, where did the Nigerian come from? Knowing too many Nigerians. Watching too many Nigerian films. So I said, This is a West African thing, right? President Brush says, Eddie Hearn was questioned about his marriage on Valuetainment podcast, and his response was telling. Oh, what did he say? Because I saw some interview, I think it was with Ariel Helwani, and he asked Eddie about his wife or his marriage or something, and Eddie just basically blanked the question. I guess that was quite telling. Anyway, here we are. Never mind gossiping about Eddie Hearn's marriage. Here we are, round 8. Wood, Cacace. There's some blood there. Not sure who that blood is from. Somebody's nose or mouth. So Leigh Wood's got it all to do here. I don't think it's insurmountable on the cards necessarily, but he's definitely behind for me. Quite a ways behind. Just getting outboxed by Cacace. Left hook there from Wood. Right hand. Yeah, it's getting to the point where he's going to need to start taking some risks. Okay, Cacace's got some damage under the right eye. It's a cut. And blood from Cacace's nose. That could affect his breathing. Wood pouncing on him here, trying to go to the body and affect the breathing even more, right? So this is a decent spell here for Leigh Wood. I think Cacace motioned or gestured earlier on in the round as if to say that it was a head clash that caused that damage. Combination from Cacace. Nice body shot from Cacace. Right hook, but he's holding on here. So Cacace, I think, a little uncomfortable due to that facial damage. Getting a warning from the referee for rabbit punching here, Cacace. Nice work with the left hand again from Cacace there. Right hand doesn't quite find the target. Wild swing and a miss from Anthony Cacace. On the front foot again, trying to show Leigh Wood that he's not that disturbed by the facial damage. Cacace on the offensive here. Wood's going to need to punch with him because, you know, Cacace was throwing shots there. Wood was just defending. He needs to punch with him. Because if you allow Cacace to sharpshoot, he's going to get the better of it all the time, as he has up to this point. We're in round 8. So you can't let him sharpshoot and just defend every time he attacks. You have to punch with him. Yeah, he might get the better of it in those exchanges, but you're going to have to keep doing that if you're Leigh Wood, because he's surely falling way behind on points. You're going to have to punch with the guy and gamble on your power at this stage if you're Leigh Wood. Only 4 rounds to go now, right? After this, we're in the final third of the fight. This is where you have to roll the dice. Ooh, big swing and a miss there from Cacace. Wood now bleeding from the nose. Nice right hand there from Cacace. And then he switches southpaw. Yeah, roll the dice here. Wood needs to roll the dice. In Circle says, why are UK commentators so bad? It's not even the bias. They just sound awful. I agree. Most of them do sound awful. Because in the hiring process, broadcasters in the UK, I've been complaining about this for years. Broadcasters in the UK very rarely factor in the quality of somebody's voice. And you guys know what I mean. Some people have got a good broadcast voice. And in the United States, they clearly hire commentators. Not just for their eloquence, etc., but also for their presence on the broadcast mic, their voice. A couple of good examples would be Max Kellerman, who had a great broadcast voice, and also Jim Lampley, who had a fantastic broadcast voice. And they just don't seem to hire people in the UK, commentators that is, based on that, and they should. All right, Leigh Wood attacking here, really going for it. Cacace firing back. Okay, vicious exchanges. Cacace opening up on Leigh Wood. And see, Leigh Wood's going to have to do this. He's getting the worst of it here. Ooh, down goes Wood. Down goes Wood. Down goes Leigh Wood. Yeah, the ropes held him up. He fell back into the ropes. He's shaking his head, but the ropes held him up, so he has to give him a count. He has to give him a count. But this is what it's going to have to be for Wood. If he wants to win, he's going to have to risk getting knocked out to try and win. The Cacace following up with shots. And right here is where Leigh Wood needs to be swinging, bro. If he actually wants to win rather than survive. Swing with him. You either get knocked out or knock him out. You got to swing with him. He jabs there rather than swinging. Right hand to the chin from Cacace. Nice shots. But Wood's going to have to swing with him, bro. He's going to have to just gamble and let it all hang out like he did at the start there. Again, he got the worst of it, but you're going to have to keep on doing that. The more excited Cacace gets looking for the KO, the more he's going to leave himself open. JR says Sonny Edwards sounds like he's on helium. Sonny Edwards talks like he's got cotton wool stuffed up his nose.
Yeah, so, you know, it's a really good fight here from these guys. Cacace and Wood. Oh, it's really...
Yeah, that's how Sonny Edwards talks. Like he's got a clothes peg on his nose or cotton wool stuffed up there. Oh, great body shots. Leigh Wood nearly goes down from the body shots from Cacace. Cacace's got him hurt. Wood in all sorts of bother. 50 seconds left in round 9. Will the referee stop it? Leigh Wood damn near runs away. Okay, the towels come in. Leigh Wood's been stopped. Ben Davison threw the towel in. Anthony Cacace retains the IBO title. Round 9, stoppage. Good performance. Good performance. Yes, it was against the guy coming up in weight. Been out the ring a long time, but still, you can only beat what's in front of you, and Anthony Cacace did a very good job. And I agree again with Richard there saying the towel came in at the right time. Yeah, because they could see that their fighter was distressed and he was overwhelmed and he just couldn't land anything. Shout out to D. I can't listen to Sonny Edwards, bro. He's got a pipsqueak voice. Wave says, do you think Eddie Hearn is happy Leigh Wood lost because he left him for fish eyes? I'm not sure whether he's that bothered, to be honest. Let's have a look at the finish. Wood was swinging as he had to. Cacace came back with a combination. Very nice short shots. Cacace shortens his shots very well on the inside for somebody with long arms. Yeah, Leigh Wood falls back into the ropes. I'm not sure why he tried to say it wasn't a knockdown, because the ropes kept him up. So yeah, knockdown there. Right hand to the forehead of Wood. Yeah, knocking his brains around. And yeah, if the ropes weren't there, he would have gone down, so you have to call it a knockdown. And these guys are the same age, I believe, but Cacace's a lot fresher. Uppercut, beautiful left uppercut from Cacace there. And then the body shot really hurt Leigh Wood. His combination punching, really impressive, Cacace. Nice. You see, he just throws from both sides, you know, left hooks, right hooks, uppercuts. He'll switch southpaw, almost like a Mexican fight. You know, a lot of Mexican fighters do that. You know, like Martinez, the little guy who beat Charlie Edwards? Is it Julio Cesar Martinez? He would fight like that. You know that they're constantly switching southpaw orthodox on the inside as they throw their hooks and uppercuts. Cacace's got a bit of that in him. We're seeing the finish here. Again, the hooks and uppercuts from both hands, switching southpaw orthodox on the inside. Body shot hurts Leigh Wood. And he literally legged it away from Cacace at the end there, which was the cue for Ben Davison to throw the towel in. Encircled says, I can't listen to any of them, Smith, with the fake rasp. Edwards sounded like he's a midget with hay fever. And there's the respect. That's Adam Smith, innit? And there's the respect. Shout out to Dominic. Yes, people, if we can stick a like on this one, be very much appreciated. Workstation says, was that Adam Smith or Batman? Oh, that's a good question. Maybe that's who Adam Smith patterned his commentary style on. Now, he actually patterned his commentary style on Ian Dark. But when Ian Dark did it, when he got gravelly, it sounded more natural. When Adam Smith does it, it sounds very forced. But yeah, he got it off Ian Dark. And there's the respect. Encircled says, McManus, okay, Adam Swift, Batman, and Vince McMahon all sound the same. Yeah, but Vince McMahon is a GOAT. Vince McMahon's fantastic. Shout out to D for the super chat. He says, that's for the Sonny Edwards impression. I'm crying laughing, man. Shout out to D. Big up for the super chat. In fact, the WWE commentators are great. Well, they were back in the days. Jerry the King. Is Jerry the King still with WWE? He's the one with a squeaky voice like Steve Bunce, who always supported the heel. And then there was the cowboy one, the one with the cowboy hat. Who's the cowboy? And why did Jerry the King always wear his wrestling tights, even as a commentator? Jim Ross, thank you, Jim Ross. Yeah, he's the cowboy hat one. Yeah, Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler. And Jerry the King Lawler, even when he's commentated, he's still wearing his wrestling tights. Not sure what that's about. Shout out to Air Yeti. He says, Wood should have done the Warrington rematch and stayed with Matchroom. Yeah, he got fully done up there by Cacace. Totally outboxed, beaten up and stopped. Cacace being interviewed now. Very happy with his performance, as he should be. It was a very good performance. I liked it. Workstation, that's right. Jim Ross. Oh my God! Yeah. Almost like Manny Stewart in the first Ortiz-Berto fight. Oh my God! And Circled says, I always remember Jim Ross saying, as God is my witness, he is broken in half. I love the WWE commentary. It's so ridiculous. JR says, did you see the John Fury interview? Like something out of the Twilight Zone. Yeah, I made a video about it, which I uploaded earlier on. Man's talking more rubbish. But my whole thing is, why is he coming out and breaking his silence now? I think he's heard something on the grapevine that his son is about to come back. And so he's trying to get ahead of it. Yeah, I think he knows his son is coming back. It's imminent. And that's why John Fury is chosen now. 12 months after the first Usyk fight. He hasn't spoken about this fight for a year. And now he comes out and starts talking about it. Yeah, he knows something is coming. That's why. Tyson and his dad John are always scheming and plotting. They're always they always have ulterior motives, those two. So whenever they do anything, you have to properly analyze it, you know? You have to properly analyze it because they're always up to something. Encircled says, Jim Ross as the boxing commentator could have been amazing. Shadab says, Don Charles wants to have a chat. Again? Anthony says, even Darren still mocked John for Tyson getting smashed by Usyk, and John never said anything then. Yeah, Darren Till, that's right. Cash says, Usyk gives them a trilogy, he should demand a 90% split, for sure. I mean, he shouldn't be giving Tyson Fury a trilogy fight at this stage. Fury needs to earn that by beating at least two top contenders. But if that fight were to come about, then yeah, Usyk should proper pull his pants down. Pause. That's an English expression. Pause. He says, a workstation says, didn't you compare Don Charles to a salty donut in a previous stream? I'm pretty sure I said something like that. Yeah, I called him a donut plenty of times. A salty donut. That's a good one, actually. A salty donut. Imagine how horrible that must be. A salty donut. A donut dipped in salt. Yo, that's proper horrible, bro. That's a good way to describe Don Charles then. A salty donut. What would the filling be of a salty donut? If it's got a filling. You have to think of some kind of salty filling to go with it. If you wanted to go real horrible, imagine a donut dipped in salt with a tuna filling. That'd be straight disgusting. What? Yeah, fish paste or tuna fish. Proper salty tuna fish in the middle. With a donut dipped in salt. Nasty. A curry filling. There's a fish donut. In Circle says, if you bit into that, you would be alarmed. For sure. You'd be startled. Jake says, Hatman, who do you think is the worst liar out of John Fury, Tyson, or Miller? I gotta go with John Fury. Gotta go with John Fury. Because here we got John Fury claiming, again, I always talk about this particular lie because he's told so many, but this is the biggest and most impossible to defend. The guy claims that he beat an Irish bare knuckle champion in Ireland and got paid 100 grand. And he can't remember the guy's name. I mean, give it a rest. If you couldn't remember the guy's name, you'd remember who the fair play men were. You know, you'd remember other people who were present. And you'll be able to name them and get them to vouch for you. But no, John Fury, nothing. Just, oh yeah, I beat this Irish bare knuckle champion for 100 grand. Can't remember his name though. I mean, John Fury didn't earn 100 grand for all his pro fights combined, but I bet he can tell you who the name is of every single, professional boxing opponent he fought. But somehow he forgets the name of this Irish. I mean, it's just, the man talks so much rubbish, it's incredible. He's a pathological liar. Shout out to President Brush for the super chat. He says, I feel like Tyson, AJ, or both are doing a cycle before the last lap of their career. These persistent injuries, niggles, and fake retirements are sus. That's an interesting take, and I wouldn't dismiss it. It's an interesting take. I mean, AJ never really, to my satisfaction anyway, denied the what do they call it now? Therapeutic usage exemption, TUE, for testosterone. He never satisfactorily denied that. And kind of talked around it, when he was being accused of that by Dylan White and maybe a couple of others. That's something that if it's not true, you can sue somebody over that. It's defamation. I'm not aware of him suing Dylan White over saying that. So, it wouldn't surprise me. And Tyson Fury, of course, as we know, served a ban for juicing. So, yeah, I wouldn't dismiss what you're saying as implausible whatsoever. Shout out to Mr. Luca for the super chat. He says, Fury would get his back blown out by Dubois. Pause. I'm kind of in two minds about whether I think Tyson Fury will take that fight. Let's say Dubois beats Usyk. Presumably there'll be a rematch. Oh, God, rematches. Too many rematches in the heavyweight division. But if there was no rematch, would Tyson Fury fight Dubois? I don't know. Maybe it depends on how devastating Dubois looks. Do you know what I mean? Because as I said in the video I uploaded earlier, I think Tyson Fury wants to limit fighting to whoever is perceived to be the number one. I don't think he wants to fight anyone at this stage who isn't seen as the number one in the division, unless he thinks AJ is just so shot beyond belief that it will be a walk in the park. And AJ appears to be that shot, right? But again, Tyson Fury remembers that he struggled with Francis Ngannou of all people, and AJ blew him out. He remembers that he struggled with Otto Wallen, and AJ blew him out. This wasn't long ago. So Tyson Fury's very aware of his own mortality. And the thing is, I'd still pick Tyson Fury to beat AJ. But Tyson Fury typically is not as confident in winning certain... See, Tyson Fury's not afraid of getting in the ring and swapping punches with anyone. He's got a high tolerance for pain and risk in the ring. But he's very strategic outside the ring because he cares so much about his reputation and, upholding this image of being the boxing genius and this, that, and the other. He cares about that, but he's not afraid of anything that can happen to him in the ring. Whereas AJ is. AJ's like afraid of what could happen in the ring. See, I'd pick Tyson Fury over AJ, but I don't know. I don't think Fury would like going in there and losing to AJ or even looking bad against AJ because of the way he's been slagging him off for all these years. Fury wouldn't be able to call himself the best in the division anymore, would he? Because he's still doing that even now. If he were to go in there and even struggle with AJ, forget about it. The public are not going to have it. So I think he's kind of 50-50 about whether he should take the AJ fight. I'm not sure he sees beyond just money that much upside in it. And because of that, we might see Fury against Dubois. Depends how Fury's feeling. And it depends if Dubois got the belts. President Brush says, in your opinion, does AJ's physique mimic a steroid user? AJ's physique to me is not a smoking gun steroid user. It's somebody who could plausibly be on steroids. But there are people with physiques like that don't take any steroids. And that's a fact, particularly people of West African descent. Some of them are massive. I mean, look at Carlos Takam. Do you know what I mean? A lot of West Africans have got very heavy, muscular physiques like that, particularly from places like Nigeria. Without steroids or anything. You go look at some of them West African wrestlers, the ones that do traditional wrestling. Massive builds. No steroids in sight. A lot of these guys are from abject poverty that do all that traditional African wrestling. They ain't got money for steroids. And some of them are absolutely huge. So that part of Africa in particular produces very big muscular people naturally. With that being said, it doesn't mean AJ isn't on steroids. Do you know what I mean? He could be. Isaac says, I don't think Nigeria, but more like Senegal and Ghana. Well, I'm thinking of Nigerian fighters. Ike Abeabuchi was a huge muscular guy, right? Even now, Abeabuchi's what, 50? And he's still jacked. He's massive, Abeabuchi. There was also another Nigerian heavyweight around the same time when Abeabuchi was fighting called David Izonrite. He was also a big muscular guy. Tony S says, what's the food you said they have in West Africa that builds muscle? Well, they have it in West Africa, but also Caribbeans eat it, and it's eaten, various places. But that's yam. Yam, as Grizz says there, is a natural steroid. That's right. Yam is a natural steroid. Yeah, Iba. Set says, I am East African. I'm all cardio and not much strength. Well, that's what East Africans are like, right? Shots fired. I'm eating pistachios. For those wondering why. Wow, I'm trying to turn away from the mic a little bit so it doesn't sound too intrusive or obnoxious. I'm eating pistachios. I can hear it. Damn. Let me use the mute button. You said that there. Yeah, Cash says, why have we never seen a Somali boxer? Shout out to the Somalis out there. I shouldn't laugh. I think that question can go on. That question can go on unanswered, isn't it? I don't think it needs answering. Oh dear. Sean Parker says they haven't got a flattened off head. There you go. Yeah, no neck burgers. Yeah, Somalis don't really have athletic builds, do they? Circle says they all get KO'd too fast. Yeah, they don't really have athletic builds. That's all I can tell you. You know, one thing I noticed about Somalis, right, is they're generally slim and tall. Some Somali guys are skinny fat. You know what I mean by skinny fat? Where they've got a lot of body fat, but almost no muscle. So we're like a skinny guy in a fat suit type scenario going on. But also, it's kind of weird because you'll see Somali guys that are really tall and skinny, but they've got like big feet, like boat shoes. They just don't look right. Now, I've got big feet, right? But I'm thick set. I'm a muscular guy. So my big feet suit my height and all that kind of stuff. But when you see someone that's like really skinny and they've got big feet, it looks wild. Dr. Wu says, never seen a muscular Somali. Me neither. Ever. And I've known many of them. I've never seen a muscular one. That's true. In the Horn of Africa, yeah, generally most of them are slim, right? Even Ethiopians are like that. They're slim. There's not much muscle there. Kushites. Kushitic people. Shout out to the Somali crew and the East Africa crew in general. Set says in East Africa, you'll rarely see someone fat. Is that a good thing? Is that even true? I don't know. Rick says the delusion levels of Big John Partridge thinking his son Luke beat Usyk twice. Well, that's all cope, isn't it? It's all cope. One sec. Okay, I'm back. Who do they fight next? Set says, yes, Hatman, that is true. I grew up in Eritrea, moved to Uganda, Kenya, and Zanzibar. Really slim and lean people. Somebody asked, who should Cacace fight next? Let me have a look at the champions at Super Feather. Ray Ford's at Super Featherweight now, right? Ray Ford's doing damage these days. Let's have a look here. Super Featherweight, okay, IBF is vacant. So could Cacace go for the vacant IBF? Lamont Roach, WBA. Oshaki Foster, WBC. And Emmanuel Navarrete is WBO. Yeah, Ray Ford is ranked number 7 by the WBO right now. Number 4 by the WBC. Number 5 by the IBF. Yeah, he's not a guy that you're really going to fight voluntarily, is he? So I wouldn't expect Cacace to go after him. I just mentioned Ray Ford because he moved up a couple fights back. And I've got my eye on his career because he's been looking good since He stepped up after the loss to Nick Ball. Oh, of course. Excuse me. IBF because Cacace relinquished it. That's right. That's correct. So he's going to fight for it back, is he? All right. IBF title fight will happen end of May. Just looked it up. Oh, okay. Oh, not necessarily with Cacace. Who's fighting for the vacant belt then? Anybody know who's fighting for the vacant IBF? Shout out to Ali for the super chat. He says, watched your last live stream. Why did you say Sudan is on your bucket list? I'm Sudanese and never heard anyone say they want to go to Sudan. Because I'm interested in ancient sites. And so I'd like to go to northern Sudan to see the ancient Nubian monuments. They've just found like new structures in that Nubia region in northern Sudan, which is said to be something like 4,000 or 5,000 years old. Some like impressive old buildings and whatnot that are just unearthed. So I'd like to go there and see those. I know Sudan is unstable, or various regions or areas of Sudan are unstable. You know, the political situation is rocky. But ideally, I'd like to go there, definitely, and see all the ancient sites they have there. Wave says Sugar Nunes, Eddie Hearn's guy. Okay. I see. All right. Rikishi. All right. Set says Hatman is someone with lots of Sudanese friends. I recommend you hold off on the trip. It is really violent out there. Well, as I said a few moments ago, I'm aware that it's unstable and the trip is not imminent. It's not a trip that I've got planned anytime soon. It's just something that one day I would like to do. I'm very aware that there's a lot of instability. It's unfortunate because so many of the places I want to go to see ancient sites are unstable. So even Ethiopia, right? A lot of the areas where they have the ancient sites like Aksum. Where's the other place where they have ancient sites in Ethiopia? Aksum is one of them. Where's the other one? Lalibela, right? Lalibela, Aksum. And yeah, those areas, they have a lot of sporadic fighting and instability and fighting between the government forces and rebel forces, and it will crop up every few years in Ethiopia, unfortunately. Seth says Ethiopia is safe, all things considered. Yeah, if you go to like Addis Ababa, as I understand it, Addis Ababa was cool. But if you go out to those like provinces and stuff, it can get a bit sketchy. They have instability and fighting, and which occurs from time to time. And the same goes for the Lebanon. I'd like to visit Baalbek. Somebody just mentioned Baalbek there. I'd love to visit Baalbek, but you know how unstable it is there? In the Lebanon, that area is always instability around there and fighting that sporadically pops up. And because of that, apparently getting into the Lebanon can be sketchy and difficult because you probably get grilled, from what I've heard, at the immigration. Like, why are you here? What are you doing here? They're probably rifling through your passport, to see what country you're coming from and where you've been. And do you know what I mean? But they have, again, that incredible megalithic site of Baalbek that I really want to visit. So one day I'd like to go there, you know? Really be a matter of meeting some people that are from there. Some people that you think you can trust, who can smooth things over for you. Shout out to Workstation. Says, what do you think of Manny Pacquiao coming back against Barrios? Must be nice to be in Mauricio Sulaimán's good book. It's ridiculous. Pacquiao fought an exhibition, didn't he? Like, was it last year, the year before? He looked terrible. Apparently he hadn't trained for it, but yeah, it's ridiculous how a guy can come out of retirement for several years and jump straight into a title shot. And somebody else said there, F Mauricio Sulaimán. Ridiculous. Set says, just don't go to the remote places like the Afar region or Tigray region. Always friction and conflict there. Well, that's where the ancient sites are. That's the problem. I'm not going to Ethiopia just for some type of, little sabbatical to stay in some nice hotel and chill. Now I want to go see ancient sites. But it just so happens that the ancient sites are in these sketchy regions. I think in like the north of the country, where it's proper sketchy. Star Fox says, good evening all. Have I missed the regular mentions of Fitzroy Lodge and the logs and Baalbek? We just started on them, so you're right on time, bro. But yeah, F Mauricio Sulaimán, ridiculous stuff. Pacquiao, like so many other fighters, benefiting from what I call legacy privilege. And with the WBC, legacy privilege is basically baked in, even to their rules, It's crazy. Josh says Sulaimán is a Sith Lord. Yeah, the legacy privilege is getting out of hand. And the WBC have always been the worst for it. At least, I want to say in the past few decades. Nick says, Conor Benn versus Pac-Man is all set up for a big stadium fight in the UK, mark my words. All right, that's an interesting take. Set says you're going to need to go to Ethiopia for an extended period and get to know the country and people. Once you get a reliable and trustworthy locals, then you can travel safely, but still be careful. Yeah. I guess I'm inspired by Graham Hancock, right? Because that's where he first developed this interest in ancient cultures, was in Ethiopia, because he was he was the Africa correspondent for The Economist newspaper, and he was in Ethiopia, I think maybe covering a conflict out there at the time. This was in, I want to say, the 1980s. And he was in Aksum, and he met some priest guarding a chapel or a church or whatever. I think it was in Aksum. Was it Aksum? Somewhere in Ethiopia. Anyway, I think it was in Aksum. And this priest told him that the church he was guarding housed the Ark of the Covenant. And obviously he got into a conversation with his priest, and he was drawn in and fascinated by what this priest was claiming. Shout out to B-Tech Grime. Says tricky guy to hit clean. Cacace, good performance. Wood needs to think about knocking it on the head. Yeah, Cacace looked good. I was impressed. I liked his switch hitting on the inside. Southpaw orthodox, then coming up with his hooks and uppercuts. And his sharp shooting at long range was impressive too. He was splitting Wood's guard time and time again. It was a very nice performance. Shout out to B-Tech Grime. Nick says priests are only meant to survive 4 years or something guarding it if the whole thing is true. Yeah, that's what they say. That's what Graham Hancock said. And he said the priest that he met God in that chapel or church had cataracts and he wasn't even that old. And he went back a couple of years later expecting to see the same guy, but that guy wasn't there. And he asked the priest that was there, where's the old guy? And he said, oh, he died. And he looked at this guy and he also had cataracts. And he said, how did he die? And he said it was the ark that killed him. He said, and Graham Hancock was like, the ark killed him? What do you mean? And the priest said to Graham Hancock, it is a thing of fire. Yeah. And when he said that, yeah, Graham Hancock was hooked. And he went on this entire career investigating ancient cultures based on that. There's also a part of Ethiopia where they've got these giant obelisks. One of them is like the largest obelisk to have ever, well, the largest obelisk in known human history is in Ethiopia. It's not standing anymore. There's several obelisks in this area that are standing, but one of them is like tipped over and it's like 2,000 years old. Massive, bigger than any of the obelisks in Egypt, for example. Massive thing. I forget how many tons it weighs, but it's enormous. So I'd like to go there as well to see their obelisks. Ethiopia is a gem really for ancient sites, that country. Striker says, take Indiana Jones's advice regarding the Ark, keep your eyes closed. I actually watched that film the other day, you know. Raiders of the Lost Ark. I watched it the other day. In fact, did I watch all 3 Indiana Jones original films? I think I did. I definitely watched 2 of them. I watched Temple of Doom and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Sean Barker says the oldest Bible was from Ethiopia, wasn't it? The oldest illustrated Bible is Ethiopian, yeah. The oldest illustrated one. I'm not sure if it's like the oldest written Bible, but the oldest Bible with illustrations in it is the Ethiopian Bible, yeah. You know, watching those Indiana Jones films again the other day, I did watch all 3 of them, yeah. The first one was Raiders of the Lost Ark. The second one was Temple of Doom. And the third one was Last Crusade. That was the order of them, right? And watching those films back, because it's been many, many, many years, maybe decades since I watched them, I realized how much the Uncharted series actually was inspired by, I mean, obviously it was, you know, knew from the beginning that Uncharted was inspired by Indiana Jones. But watching the movies again, it was like, wow, they took damn near everything from Indiana Jones. They took set pieces, they took characters, they took plot points. I mean, just, I'm surprised Uncharted didn't get sued. The amount of stuff they took from Indiana Jones. It's crazy. Shout out to AJ for the super chat. He says, your last live when you refused to entertain talking about Don Charles again, as you find the man genuinely annoying, made me chuckle. Yeah, Don Charles. Don Charles. Like somebody was saying earlier on. He's a salty donut with a tuna filling. That's what Don Charles is. Salty donut with a tuna filling. It's something you'd rather not think about, innit? Imagine how nasty that would be. A salty donut. A donut dipped in salt with a tuna filling. Nasty. You'd rather not think about what it tastes like. That's how I am thinking about Don. I'm rather not even think of the guy. But he forces my hand when he comes out talking rubbish. Ocean Blue says with a glass of salt water, glass of vinegar. Let's go the whole hog. Donut dipped in salt, tuna filling with a glass of vinegar to wash it down. Nick says Cambodia is interesting. A whole region. Laos, Vietnam, many hidden secrets, undiscovered species. But you know, I'm always somebody that likes to go to places that are not as touristy. And the likes of Ethiopia, Sudan, these places are nowhere near as touristy as the Far East, you know. Cambodia full of tourists, backpackers and new age types and whatnot. Sometimes you have to go to the dangerous places because the typical tourist types won't dare go there. Shout out to Workstation. He says a salty donut filled with onion sauce. Salty donut filled with tuna and raw garlic. How about that? Tuna, raw garlic. I'm trying to think of something else really obnoxious. Raw onions as well. Just something proper nasty in there. Shout out to Goozy. Excuse me, people talking about try rotten eggs. Yeah, people are talking about anchovies. Yeah, anchovies are nasty as it is. That's a good shout, Blue Collar Sports TV. Anchovies. Oh, anchovies are so disgusting. I'm not sure how they ever became a thing on pizza. Anchovies are absolutely butters. I don't know how, and I'm not a fussy eater, right? But anchovies are nasty. I don't know what sadistic individual came up with that as a pizza topping. So yeah, we've finally found the filling. Yeah. It's a donut dipped in salt with an anchovy filling. An anchovy and tuna fish filling. See, I like pineapple on pizza. I don't know what people's issue is with it. Pineapple on pizza is nice. I like it. But, yeah, anchovies are just nasty. They're like the saltiest food known to man, anchovies. Unbelievable. It's saltier than saltfish. And pickled eggs are alright. Pickled eggs are not too bad. You know, old school fish and chip shop pickled eggs. They're all right. It's not, I don't mind pickled eggs. But as a filling, yeah, that would be nasty. It'd be a nasty filling. But I still think anchovies are worse. But I'm just thinking about pickled eggs by themselves, right? Pickled egg by itself is like not that bad. But yeah, as a donut filling, it would be nasty. Debiaka says, bigs up pineapple on pizza, but dogs down anchovies. Damn, bro. Yeah, damn right. Pineapple is fine. First of all, pineapple tastes nice in general, right? Ain't nothing wrong with a taste of pineapple. It's a nice tasting fruit. And it complements salty toppings on a pizza. You know, the meat that they put on pizza is often salty. And if you have pineapple with it, it kind of takes some of the saltiness away with the sweetness and the wateriness of the pineapple. It's nice. But anchovies are just nasty. It's like this strong, fishy taste with extreme saltiness. I mean, way saltier than, you know, when you get like tuna fish in brine, it's like kind of salty. Anchovy saltiness is like times a million. It's a crazy saltiness. Butters. Boxing fan says, what's your favorite seafood? My two favorite types of fish, right, are grouper fish, right? Grouper fish is one of them. And my other favorite type of fish is a fish that I had in the Middle East, right? I think in English it's a type of rabbit fish, but out there they call it safi. I'm not even sure if safi is an Arabic word. It might be an Indian word because there's a lot of like Indian loan words that are used out there in the Gulf states. But out there they called it safi. And it's like a relatively small, gray colored fish. And it is very, very tasty. So those are my two favorite fish of all time. Grouper fish, you find it all over in hot countries, in the Caribbean, in the Americas, in the Middle East, in Asia. Grouper fish is everywhere. But yeah, I like grouper fish and safi. Mahi mahi is good. They eat that a lot out here. That's also called dolphin fish. Right? Mahi mahi is good. It tastes nice, but it's got a bit of a funky smell. It tastes a lot better than it smells. I'll just put it that way. Mahi mahi. Now, I don't like salmon. I'm not a fan of salmon. I mostly prefer sea fish rather than freshwater fish. I mean, salmon is both, right? Salmon lives in the rivers, but it also goes out to sea. But I prefer fish that are exclusively saltwater fish. I'm not really a fan of snapper, you know. It's very bony, and I don't think the payoff is that great. And that's coming from a Caribbean, right? Where snapper is like the easiest and cheapest fish for most people. I'm not really a big fan of it. It's just so many damn bones in it, and yeah. That's one of the reasons I like grouper fish, because grouper grows very large. And if you get even a fairly big grouper, let's say 3 foot in length, the bones are damn near the size of chicken bones. So it's difficult to choke on them. Do you know what I mean? And I like the taste of the flesh with grouper. It's got a nice kind of almost buttery. In fact, this is going to sound weird, but the closest taste to chicken among fish is grouper. You eat like a large grouper fish, depending on how it's cooked, it damn near tastes like chicken. How weird is that? Also, kingfish is nice. AJ says yard tin mackerel on toast. Now we're talking about struggle food. I remember when we used to sit in a government yard in Trenchtown. That's tin mackerel on toast. Steamed or stewed, fried. Fried all the way. The least healthy, but the most tasty. A set says, how about octopus? They eat octopus a lot here. It's not bad. It's not my go-to, but, you know, it's a bit weird. Like the texture of, you know, eating the tentacles and all that is a bit weird, but it don't taste bad. It's all right. Debiarka says smoked mackerel chunks from Tesco are heavenly. Don't know about heavenly. I mean, it's okay. There you go, Ocean Blue. I'm observing the hypocrites. There you go. Adrian says, nah, not fried, man. Steam more healthy. Well, you got to do what you got to do, man. Fried fish is just more tasty. Ellaby says, is grouper fish imitation for a lot of fishes? Imitation? So what, they're passing grouper fish off as something else? I wouldn't have thought so, because grouper fish is quite expensive in most countries. It's not a particularly cheap fish. If ever you go somewhere and they got grouper on the menu, it will usually be one of the most expensive things. Shout out to the place. Blue Collar Sports TV says actual fresh mackerel is actually good if you like oily fish. Yeah, mackerel is all healthy in that with the omega-3 and whatever, but like standard mackerel, you know, it's an okay fish. It's not offensive, but I don't think it's anything great. Kingfish, which is in the mackerel family, is much more tasty. Yeah, kingfish is the Rolls Royce of the mackerels. Yeah, kingfish is much nicer. In Circle says, often the fish we eat is months old. Well, you can always catch your own. Unless you're in a landlocked country, that's always an option, right? Catch your own and then you know exactly how old it is. Or you can buy it off the dock. Yeah, there's plenty of places you can go, even in the UK. You can go down to the seaside and chat to the fishermen there. You buy a fish right off the dock. No problem. Goozy says mackerel cooked as an Indian curry is really nice with potatoes. Speaking of that part of the world, I've always heard that Bengalis make really nice fish curry. I think that's their thing, isn't it? With Bangladesh, is fish curry. But I've never had their fish curry, so I've always wanted to try Bengali fish curry. Guzi says Bangladeshis are the kings of fish and rice. That's all they eat. Yeah, that's what I've heard. AJ says always wanted to try those po' boy fried fish sandwiches from the US, New Orleans. I think I said this before, but the only Bayesian food from Barbados that I ever liked was their fish sandwich. They call it a fish cutter. Bayesian fish cutters are nice, but the rest of Bayesian food, bog standard, you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't rate the food in Barbados at all. Okay, Wart says the truth went to Sahara Grill in Whitechapel. Never had a fish burger like it. Blew my mind. Bengali restaurant. Okay. Cam says had some at my mate's house and it was 10 out of 10. Problem is you won't find that in a restaurant. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Our set says, Hatman, did you like the Blade films? No. No, not a fan of the Blade films. Not really a fan of superhero films or comic book films, should I say, in general. The only comic book films I've liked were the Nolan Batman trilogy. Infinity War was cool, I guess, for the time. And other than that, I would say the last Batman with Robert Pattinson was cool. But generally, I'm not a fan of comic book movies. Not into them. Shout out to Joe Williams. Debiaka says the only thing I rate from Barbados is Rihanna. She's a good singer. Don't rate her personality though, but she can sing. Adrian says, anyone seen the new film Sinners? I haven't, but somebody whose judgment I trust in my Element group recommended it to me. And there are not too many people whose judgment I trust when it comes to films. But I trust this guy's judgment. It's actually Outmatch Boxing. So I trust his judgment. And he said Sinners is pretty good. If he hadn't recommended it, I probably wouldn't have gone to see it. I haven't seen it, but, you know, I'm considering watching it after he recommended it. Ellaby says, isn't Nicki from Barbados too? Not Trinidad. Nicki Minaj, if you're talking about her. I'm not sure if she was born there, but her family is from Trinidad. All right, choice. Adrian has recommended it as well. All right, I'll check it out. The thing is, it's a vampire movie, right? And it's like, to be fair, I did like Nosferatu. But that was directed by Robert Eggers. And I quite like Robert Eggers' films. I like The Northman. I like Nosferatu. And there was another film he made, The Witch. I like that. I started watching, is it The Lighthouse? Another Robert Eggers film the other day. But I found it a bit weird because one of the characters just kept farting like in every scene. I was like, what's all that about? I just found it too weird and off-putting that this guy, that one of the plot points was this guy just kept farting all the time. I was like, nah, mate. Debiaka says the most popular women's fantasy is vampires for whatever reason. Yeah, that is strange, isn't it? Striker says the Lighthouse is way out there. Yeah, it's pretty weird. I didn't finish the film because I was kind of weirded out by it. Like I say, especially with all the farting. I don't know why he put that in there. So, all right, people are giving their own theories as to why women like vampire movies so much. So I'm going to tell you something right now as an older man. Been there, seen it, done it, bought the t-shirt. Women, generally, I'm not talking about every single woman, and I have to say this because if there's a woman in the chat, even when you tell them I'm not talking about every woman, I'm just generalizing, they feel the need to say, but not every woman is like that. I just said at the start, not every... Anyway. Generally, right? Generally, women are actually more selfish than men. That's something that as a man, if you've been there, seen it, done it, traveled, met lots of different women, been in different relationships, seen a lot of different things, you will come to that realization at some point in your life, sooner or later, that women are innately, most of them, more selfish than men. Men tend to be more generous. And actually, another thing I'll tell you is that men are more empathic towards the opposite sex than women are. Men have got a lot more empathy for women than women have for men. And as a man, you can get caught out with all that, right? Being too empathetic, being too empathic for a woman can get you in trouble because they don't feel the kind of empathy that you feel for them. And that's one of the issues with simps, right? Simps are basically fawning over women and enabling some of the more negative aspects of female nature. But yeah, generally men are more generous in their mindset and in their behavior and in their essence than women are. More generous and a bit more selfless. Women tend to be more selfish and self-interested. And you don't really see that in traditional societies because traditional societies are heavily patriarchal. So it kind of suppresses female selfishness and it steers them, in a particular direction. But in the West, where all things are equal, right? He says, that's when you see some of the more negative aspects of female nature come out. And in the West, you'll almost always find men being far more generous than women, men being far more empathic towards the opposite sex than women. Indeed, Debiaka, women pushing for gender equality never want to split the bill at dinner. And I tell you what, if they started a draft for World War III, women would get traditional real quick. All of a sudden, that feminist stuff will be dropped in an instant if they start drafting people to the front lines. Do you know what I mean? They'll be like, nope. Oh, let me get back into that kitchen. Yeah, they want all the privileges of being a man, but none of the responsibilities. And this is why I am a believer in polygyny, not polygamy. A Muslim guy taught me the difference a few years back between polygamy and polygyny. Polygamy is having multiple spouses. Polygyny is where it's specifically only men who can have multiple wives. Women can't have multiple husbands. I believe in polygyny because men have got so many responsibilities, which even in the West, they're expected to uphold as part of the gender role. But the responsibilities that used to be with the female gender role, they're no longer held to those anymore. So as a man, if I have to provide, protect, if I lose my livelihood and I can no longer provide, it's somehow okay for the woman to leave, right? So many women leave when their man falls on hard times and he can't provide anymore. Rather than loving him for who he is and till death do we part, he falls on hard times and she wants to leave. Think about the dynamic there, right? I'm the one who's got most of the money, yeah, if I meet a woman. She is partly attracted to me because of my social status, because I can protect and provide and this, that, and the other, right? But yet I'm taking her on board when she's got nothing. She doesn't earn as much as me. She doesn't have my social status. She doesn't have my net. She doesn't have any of the things that I've worked hard to get. But yet she gets to be in a relationship with me. You see how unequal that is? And so my thing is, yeah, I'm cool playing my gender role, but guess what? I'm going to have multiple wives. Yes, because you haven't had to do anything to get into this relationship with me. Or you certainly haven't had to go as far as I've had to go in life. This is one of the reasons I believe in polygyny. Yeah, men need to have privileges for all the responsibilities that they're expected to uphold, right? Shout out to AJ for the super chat. He says, if Cesario 3 happens, could become my favorite modern trilogy of all time. First by Dennis, God, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that name, was a 10 out of 10. Is that the one with, God, what's his name now? Is it Guillermo del Toro or Benicio del Toro? One of them's a fat director and the other one's the actor. Which one's which? I know what they both look like. One of them's called Benicio and the other one's called Guillermo. I want to say Benicio del Toro's the actor. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. Is that the film you're talking about with him in it? To do with like drug cartels and stuff like that? Because I'm pretty sure I've seen one of them. Yeah, Mexican cartel movie. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw at least the first one. I'm not sure if I've seen the second one. Benicio's the actor. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I've seen the first one with Benicio del Toro. Guillermo del Toro is a director who directed Pan's Labyrinth. He also directed Hellboy, the original Hellboys. They were going to get Benicio del Toro, believe it or not, to direct the Hobbit movies. I'm glad they didn't do that. I don't think his art style would have suited it at all. Yeah, they're going to get the Del Toro director. Shout out to Kira Malcolm. If everyone can smash the like button, much appreciated. Indeed, encircled, a woman's worth is given to her, while a man's worth has to be acquired. Indeed. And for acquiring the worth, damn right you deserve to have privileges that a woman does not have. Damn flipping straight. The men who say, oh no, we shouldn't have, all that simp talk, later for that, to use an old New York expression, later for that. Yeah, Guillermo del Toro, director, Benicio del Toro, the actor. Benicio del Toro was also in, he's been in so many movies. He was in, what's the movie I'm thinking of now that Benicio del Toro was in? Been in so many. He was in a movie called Savages. It was like a cartel type movie, very violent movie. He was in Che, the movie about Che Guevara. Yeah, he does play a good cartel guy. In that movie Savages, he plays a cartel guy. Like a ruthless, psychopathic cartel guy. Yeah, I vaguely remember him in Snatch, but it's been a long time since I watched it. Camille says, Hatman, did you watch the Peril fight? Peril got dropped, twice, still won. But man, he looked like he took a lot of damage. Yeah, I saw it. I spoke about it earlier on in the stream. Peril looked poor. And the Mexican guy that he fought looked juiced to me. I'm not accusing him. I can't say he definitely was. But to me, he looked hella juiced. I've never seen a Mexican with that kind of build before in my life. And especially when you consider the fact that back in 2018, he was fighting at welterweight. He would have been about 18 years old at the time. Who the hell's a welterweight at 18? And then a heavyweight at the age of 25 with absolute solid muscle. I've never seen nothing like that before in my life, mate. Yeah, go look at his box rec. In fact, let me get his box rec up now. His weights on his box rec are insane, right? The way he's fluctuated. Not to make any excuses for Peril here. He should have beaten that guy comfortably regardless. But it's just something that struck me about that fight. All right, so I'm going to get the guy's record up here. On my screen, you guys won't be able to see it. So his name is Cesar Navarro. That's the guy that Daniel Perro fought last night. And so, yeah, back in 2018, Cesar Navarro was 146 pounds. So he was a welterweight 7 years ago. And now he's a flipping heavyweight. Yeah, that don't happen, mate. Not unless you gained loads of fat. This guy's like shredded pure muscle. Chest out to here and biceps and shoulder. I mean, I've never seen a Mexican with that kind of build before. You look like special forces or something, this guy. And then you look at his weight, right? In 2023, how about this? In 2023, just 2 years ago, in fact, this is December 2023, so it's less than 2 years ago. We're talking about maybe 18 months ago. he was 176 pounds. How could this guy be 176 pounds in 2024? In 2023, December, right? He fought in December 2023, 176 pounds. So light heavyweight. And then just 2 years later, he's damn near 220 pounds. 50 pounds of solid muscle in 2 years? Yeah, okay. 50 pounds of solid muscle in 2 years. I mean, how else do I explain that? Cash says, wasn't Usyk a middleweight at 18? He was a middleweight at some point in his amateur career, but it was nothing that crazy. And Usyk went up through the weights over a number of years. I think maybe when he was 17, he might have been fighting a middleweight. But then he was a middleweight, then light heavyweight, then heavyweight in the amateurs, which is cruiserweight in the pros. Usyk never actually fought at super heavyweight in the amateurs, I don't think. No, he didn't. So Usyk only fought as high as 200 pounds in the amateurs. And bear in mind, in the amateurs, you're weighing in on the day of the fight. So if you're making 200 pounds in the amateurs, then you're basically weighing 200 pounds in the ring. Do you know what I mean? So with this guy, it's nothing like that. You know, Usyk did that over a number of maybe a decade, right? He put that weight on over a very long period of time. This guy has gone from 175 pounds basically to 220 pounds in 18 months. And it's all muscle. Yeah, that don't happen. But yeah, Daniel Pero looked poor. He got dropped twice. Badly hurt as well. It's not like it was a flash knockdown. It was a big right hand from the Mexican. Pero basically got greedy and he was piecing the Mexican guy up. But then the Mexican guy came out with his one big overhand right, dropped him hard. Pero got to his feet, but then was bludgeoned to the canvas again. But he got through it, saved by the bell kind of. And yeah, managed to win the fight. And he did win it. It wasn't a controversial decision or anything. But he looked poor. People are saying the brother looks better. Well, he needs to be better. Because Daniel Pero looked terrible in that fight there. It wasn't just the fact he got dropped. Even his offense just doesn't look very good. He looks sloppy. Easy to hit. Punches didn't look particularly powerful. Truth Channel says, pretty sure Usyk was 175 younger days. Yeah, but as I said a few moments ago, Usyk put the weight on over about a decade. He didn't go from 175 to 220 in 18 months. It's a big difference. Riddick Bowe fought at middleweight in the amateurs. Riddick Bowe. As a pro, Riddick Bowe, 6'5", 240 pounds, 250 pounds. He fought at middleweight when he was about 17. In fact, I think Riddick Bowe fought Chris Bird in the amateurs at middleweight. So yeah, you know, teenagers over the course of a decade or so can fill out and, you know, go up a lot of weight classes. But we're not talking about that in this instance. We're talking about a Mexican guy who, as an adult in his 20s, in the space of 18 months, gained basically 50 pounds of muscle. I have never seen that before in my life. 50 pounds of muscle No fat on this guy, chiseled. I mean, to see a Mexican with that kind of build in the first place is very unusual. Mexicans don't have builds like that. And for him to gain that weight in such a short space of time, yeah, red flag. Anthony says, have you spoke about the Pacquiao return, to fight Barrios? Yeah, I spoke about that earlier. Yeah, it's a disgraceful thing. Mauricio Sulaiman allowing that to happen. But what else can we expect from Mauricio Sulaiman, right? Talking about cartels. Mauricio Sulaiman would play a frighteningly convincing cartel boss. Yeah, it's like Angel Garcia was saying back in the days. Was it Angel Garcia who kept talking about the beef? Or was he talking about... Yeah, he was talking about Mexican beef because he started going in on Canelo, but he was also going in on the Argentinian fighters, saying that they have juicy beef down there in Argentina, but also Mexico. And that was the excuse that Canelo used, right? Remember when he got caught? He said, oh yeah, it's the beef down in Mexico. Mm-hmm. All right, peeps. Going to draw this one to a close. Shout out to everyone. It's been a great conversation, as ever. A special shout out to those who donated via Super Chat. Take care, be good. I'll see you on the other side. Before I go, Black Dynamite says, I just checked his box rec. In 2018, he was 147-18. His next fight was 5 years later in 2023, and he was 211. Yeah, and then he dropped down from 211. If you notice, in 2023, he dropped down from 211 to 176. How on earth is he doing that? How's this guy dropping from 211 to 176 in the same year, and then back up from 176 to 216? And if you look at this guy, go watch the Peril fight. He's solid muscle. Man's chiseled. So, something very strange going on there. Anyway, yeah. I'm out, peeps. Peace.